At ARCO, our core purpose is to make the construction process enjoyable and beneficial, and your safety is our top priority. Hello, I'm Jeff Cook, co-founder of ARCO.
And I'm Dick Arnoldy, co-founder with Jeff of ARCO. We'd like to thank you for helping us with this project. You're part of the ARCO team now, and we're excited to have you on board.
ARCO wouldn't be what it is today without dedicated workers like you, committed to a safe work environment. And we're committed to keeping you safe. But it's going to take a team effort. The safe, successful completion of this project is going to take your commitment too.
Over the next few minutes, you're going to learn about some of the standard safety rules for all ARCO projects. But don't assume you've heard it all before. The ARCO safety program is probably different from other safety programs you are familiar with. The ARCO Way is designed to keep you even safer by having some standards that exceed minimum OSHA requirements. Watch closely for our safety logo. It will show up anytime we're talking about a standard that exceeds OSHA.
After watching this safety video, your project superintendent will spend a few minutes talking about some site-specific items that some of you need to know. And if you ever have questions or concerns, he's the one to ask. Don't be afraid to speak up about safety. It's your right and obligation to let the superintendent know about anything you think may pose a hazard to you or anyone else around you.
Jeff and I are glad you're here today and part of the ARCO team. We want to make sure by working safely, you're able to go home to your family and loved ones at the end of each day.
So please pay very close attention for the next few minutes while we show you the safe way, the only way, the ARCO way.
The goals of ARCO's safety program are simple. Plan all work to avoid personal injury, property damage, and loss of productive time. Provide protection and safety for all associates and subcontractors on every ARCO project. Establish and maintain an open line of communication to report and correct any deficiencies within our safety program. Investigate all accidents and near-miss incidents to determine their cause and devise protective measures to avoid further hazards.
Achieving these goals and safely completing projects is a team effort. A strong commitment from each team member is required, and we're excited to have you as part of our team. The ARCO Way makes the construction process enjoyable and beneficial, and your personal safety and health is our top priority.
Statistics show the overwhelming majority of on-the-job accidents are completely preventable if we take the time to focus on safety first. That's why the ARCO Way begins long before work on the project site. Prior to starting work, subcontractors must submit their site-specific safety plans, including their hazards communication plan and the safety data sheets for all chemicals they plan to use. Once they're submitted to the ARCO project team, we schedule the pre-construction meeting. At a minimum, the subcontractor's project manager and superintendent or foreman responsible for the work must attend. For high-risk activities, a subcontractor's safety representative should attend. This meeting covers the safety requirements for your scope of work. Once work begins, weekly toolbox talks must be held by each contractor. The ARCO Way includes wearing professional construction attire and all appropriate personal protective equipment, or PPE, including a hard hat, safety glasses, shirts with sleeves with no offensive language or pictures, high-visibility vests or shirts, long pants, and hard-soled work boots. If you wear prescription glasses, you'll need approved side shields or some other side impact protection. In some cases, additional PPE may be required. For example, full face shields or goggles if the task creates particles, or gloves when working with chemicals.
Thanks for coming to work on an ARCO job site today. Please take a moment to make sure your vehicle is parked in an appropriate area, as no personal vehicles are allowed on the construction site.
The superintendent will let you know the best place to park. Also, personal radios are not allowed on site, and earphones should not be worn while working. All federal, state, and local required postings will be found in the project trailer, along with emergency phone numbers, site evacuation plans, and safety data sheets for all chemicals used at this site. Our top priority is making sure you don't get hurt, but if an incident occurs, make sure to report it to your supervisor and the ARCO superintendent immediately. Subcontractors are required to submit a formal written report within 24 hours of any incident or near miss.
A clean site is a safe site. That's why ARCO requires all of the subcontractors to do a daily cleanup of the job site. Dumpsters are provided for your use, and it's the subcontractor's responsibility to make sure all the trash is disposed of into the correct dumpsters. A clean site makes it easier for everyone to work and keeps everybody safe.
Construction sites are full of trip hazards, from debris to stored material to the very nature of construction sites. Please take time to survey your surroundings, especially when carrying tools or materials. It is important to eliminate impalement hazards by capping all vertical rebar with OSHA-approved rebar caps.
Many tasks require a competent person. In these cases, the subcontractor's competent person must be identified in writing prior to the work, and this competent person must attend the pre-construction meeting and be on site at all times while work is performed. OSHA defines a competent person as one who is capable of identifying existing and predictable hazards in the surroundings or working conditions which are unsanitary, hazardous, or dangerous to employees, and who has the authority to take prompt corrective measures. In an emergency situation, it is important that you know the quickest and safest way to evacuate. The site-specific evacuation plan will be posted, and the superintendent will also review the plan with you after this video. In order to ensure the site remains safe throughout the project, the superintendent will perform and document weekly safety inspections.
Any unsafe condition noted on a job site inspection will be forwarded to the appropriate subcontractor. A copy of the inspection will be posted in the project trailer for anybody's review at any time.
Fire extinguishers should be provided every 3,000 square feet and located so travel distance from any point is no more than 100 feet.
When performing hot work, you must have a fire extinguisher within 25 feet. And all equipment and generators are required to have a fire extinguisher.
Fire extinguishers need to be inspected and tagged monthly. Smoking is never allowed inside buildings or near any fueling areas. And fueling areas need to be equipped with a fire extinguisher. Flammable or combustible liquids need to be stored in approved metal safety cans. Plastic gas cans are not allowed on any ARCO site.
Falls are the leading cause of death among construction workers. That's why the ARCO Way requires 100% fall protection at 6 foot for all workers. No exceptions.
Fall protection can consist of guardrail systems, safety nets, warning line systems, or personal fall arrest systems, which consist of a full body harness, connecting device, and an anchor point. No matter what type of fall protection you use, your employer must provide training in accordance with OSHA 1926 Subpart M. Guardrails must be capable of supporting at least 200 pounds and should have a top rail between 39 and 45 inches above the walking and work surface, with a mid-rail halfway between the top rail and the toe board. If cables are used as a top rail, they must be kept tight so there is no more than 3 inches of deflection in any direction. Guardrail systems must be inspected daily.
Warning line systems shall be erected around all sides of the roof work area, a minimum of 6 feet back from the edge.
Warning line systems must be rigid and supported so there is no less than 34 inches and no more than 39 inches above the walking and work surface. And it shall be flagged at no more than 6 feet intervals with high visibility material.
Any hole more than 2 inches in diameter must be covered or protected by a guardrail system.
Covers should be capable of supporting at least 2 times the maximum intended load, secured to prevent displacement, and marked with the words hole or cover. A competent person must inspect all fall protection equipment.
Undoubtedly, ladders are one of the most useful tools in the construction industry today. However, it's also one of the most dangerous. Most ladder-related injuries are caused by choosing the incorrect ladder for the area you're trying to work. Make sure that you always choose the correct ladder and that you inspect the ladder before you use it. Make sure there are no missing pieces or broken pieces on the ladder.
If the ladder is damaged, do not use it. Damaged ladders need to be tagged and removed from the project. You also need to make sure that the ladder is clean. Dirt, oil, or anything else that could make the rung slippery should be cleaned off. Now that you're ready to use the ladder, make sure you set it up on a firm, level surface. Step ladders should only be used in the fully open position with braces locked. Extension ladders must be 3 feet above the upper landing surface and need to be secured to prevent displacement. No matter what kind of ladder you're using, never stand on the top or top step of the ladder. No matter the tool, make sure it's the right one for the job. You must be properly trained to use the tool and be aware of any precautions in the manufacturer's manual, including any additional PPE that may be required.
Make sure you always inspect any and all your tools before you use them. Make sure your switches operate correctly. Make sure there's no cuts or nicks or tears in your cords. Any guards or handles that are required for use must be in place at all times, no exceptions.
Scaffolding can make life easy for many different trades, but just like any tool, it's only as good as the people using it.
Each employee who is engaged in work while on a scaffold shall be trained by a competent person, and a competent person must be on site anytime work is being performed. The competent person must also inspect scaffold and scaffold components before each work shift to ensure that platforms are a minimum of 18 inches wide and are fully planked, so there is no more than 1 inch between planks and uprights. Scaffold systems should bear on base plates and mud sills or other firm foundations. Ladders or stair towers are provided when platforms are more than 2 feet above or below a point of access. Cross braces cannot be used as access. Do not allow debris to accumulate on platforms. Any damaged scaffold components must be immediately removed. Scaffolds with a height to base ratio of more than 4:1 are braced, guyed, or tied. Fall protection must be provided when workers are on a scaffold more than 6 feet above a lower level. This is best accomplished with a properly erected guardrail system. Where tools, materials, or equipment are piled higher than the top edge of the toe board, paneling or screening extending from the toe board to the top of the guardrail shall be erected.
Trenching and excavation work presents serious risks to everyone involved. Fortunately, most of these can be eliminated with upfront planning.
The competent person for excavation and trenching must inspect the excavation prior to workers entering and must be on site anytime trenching and excavating work takes place. Some standards to eliminate the more common risks include barricades. If the excavation is near a roadway or a path, it must be properly barricaded to warn pedestrians and vehicle drivers of the hazard. Access egress. Workers in excavations 4 feet or more in depth must be provided a means of egress. Workers should never be more than 25 feet from the closest means of egress. Sloping, benching, shoring. For excavations 5 feet or deeper, workers must be protected from cave-ins by an adequate protective system. This includes sloping, benching, shoring, or shielding. The proper protective system should be based on soil types. No employees under loads. When using hoisting or digging equipment, no one is allowed under the load. Spoils. Spoils must be kept back from the edge of the excavation at least 2 feet to prevent them from falling into the excavated area. Mobile equipment operators must be trained and qualified on the piece of equipment they operate and be able to provide a license or training document.
There are always several things you must always do before you operate any piece of equipment. You need to make sure that you read and understand the operator's manual. You must also make sure that you inspect any piece of equipment you're going to be operating.
Your inspection should include verifying that there's a fire extinguisher on board, the backup alarms are working, seat belts are installed and functional, and all safety devices are working properly. Make sure the equipment is operating correctly. Operators must always wear their seat belt And there's no talking on a cell phone while running equipment. Make sure you're constantly aware of your surroundings. Remember, a construction site is full of holes and drop-offs that could be deadly for an equipment operator. And make sure you stay at least 10 feet from power lines. If you're using a scissor lift, remember to put the chain up and make sure you have the appropriate fall protection in boom lifts. No matter the type of lift, standing on the rails is never allowed. Cranes are in a league all their own and need to be treated as such. Before a crane ever arrives on an ARCO site, the annual inspection records, load charts, operator CCOs, and qualifications of all assembly directors, riggers, and signal persons need to be on file in the ARCO job site trailer.
Once the crane is on site, conduct a pre-lift meeting with everyone that's associated with the lift. Make sure everybody knows the lifting plan so this dangerous task can be done successfully.
The manufacturer's manual and a crane hand signals chart should be kept in the cab at all times. There also needs to be a fire extinguisher on board. And the operator should always be aware of the terrain and make sure no loads are lifted over anyone's head. The swing radius of the crane needs to be barricaded to make sure no one enters this area. Whenever cranes are operating on site, all personnel should be wearing high visibility apparel. Tilt-up is extremely dangerous. Fortunately, we can eliminate or at least lessen most hazards through detailed upfront planning and thorough training for all workers involved in the process. Everyone must be properly trained, and before the process begins, must attend a meeting where each person's responsibility and hazards are discussed. Good housekeeping is essential for a safe lift. So before the lift begins, the area should be inspected to make sure all trip hazards have been eliminated. Absolutely no unnecessary equipment or materials are allowed in the lift area, which must be designated as a limited access zone. Signs should be posted to let other workers know to stay out. Once the lift has begun, everyone needs to maintain constant awareness of their surroundings and the location of the panel. Make sure to keep all parts of your body out of pinch points. Pipe braces must be inspected repeatedly for signs of defects. Inspections must be made every day until the braces are removed. They cannot be removed without approval from the ARCO superintendent. Steel erection can be as dangerous as tilt-up, so the same upfront planning and training needs to be in place for everyone involved. All personnel need to attend a pre-lift meeting to discuss their roles and verify that they have all the necessary training, including proper fall protection training. Remember, the ARCO Way does not allow for exceptions to the 6 feet fall protection rule for connectors and deckers. Everyone must have fall protection at 6 feet and above. Only qualified riggers and signal persons should be used, and verifications of their qualifications and training must be on file in the ARCO job site office. Before the lift, the entire area should be designated as a limited access zone and should be inspected for trip hazards. Again, no unnecessary equipment or materials should be allowed in the lift area. And remember, fire extinguishers must be kept within 25 feet of any hot work. Only qualified electricians may install and maintain temporary electrical service, and a GFCI will be used at every source of temporary power.
Extension cords are to be inspected before each use. Check the insulation for cuts and nicks. Make sure the ground pin is intact, and check that the insulation is not pulled from the plug-in.
If any part of the cord is damaged, it must be tagged and removed from the job site. You should also pay attention to how cords run through the project site. They shouldn't go where they can create trip hazards or be run over by equipment. Cords must be protected if they run through pinch points such as doors or windows. And breaker boxes must be equipped with the appropriate covers and labels. In situations where work is being performed on electrical equipment, a lockout-tagout program must be submitted and incorporated.
Back injuries are a leading cause of accidents in the construction industry. To avoid back injuries, utilize proper lifting techniques.
back straight. Always bend at the knees, not at your back. And if the weight is too heavy, get someone to help you. If the material you're carrying has sharp edges, wear gloves. The material should be neatly organized in a location where it can be easily accessible, but out of the way. Pre-planning your material staging can save you a lot of time and headaches. No matter where they're loaded, materials should be properly stored on dunnage and secured to prevent rolling or collapsing. When moving materials, make sure they're secured to equipment and never lift a load of material over personnel. The ARCO Way is designed to keep you and your coworkers safe at all times on the job site. Remember, safety is of critical importance on every job. Make sure you and your coworkers can return home safely at the end of every workday.
Thanks again for taking the time to watch this video with us.
And always remember, your safety and well-being are paramount to us.